The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports. This is the Dodgers Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
The Dodgers get it done. Figure out a way. Again, was not pretty. Again, too much shaky stuff from the bullpen, except for Roki Sasaki. And I agree with the real 005. Sasaki, really the X-effing factor in the bullpen. Yes. I tend to sometimes focus on the negative and overlook the positive. I kind of feel like I did that tonight. There's probably more positive than negative tonight from the bullpen and across the board. But of course, I'm focused in on what Emmett Sheehan did. Come on, Emmett Sheehan. What the hell was that? Ugly. The 8th inning, yesterday and today, an utter disaster. 100+ pitches, a whole mess of hits, a whole mess of runs, but they got it done. And here's the other positive thing that we come away with from the bullpen tonight on the positive side of things. Vesia came back in and got it done. Righted the ship after a terrible night last night. So that's good stuff. That's positive, and I can feel good about that. BC says we run this sport. Listen, BC, everything's good right now, but if you are thinking that Philadelphia is going to be the same kind of pushover the Reds are, you got another thing coming. The Phils have owned the Dodgers this year, and they don't have these same sort of bullpen problems that we do. And I don't know how they fix it, but the fact is that it feels like they need to score 4, 5, 6 more runs than their opposition in order to win a game. And I don't know that that's going to be on the table against the Phils. Let's see what the record is this year. Dodgers versus Phillies record this season. So the Phillies had a 4-2 record against the Dodgers this season. That could be worse. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I thought it was 6-0. Or at least 5-1, like the Dodgers were against the Reds today, or this season rather. So look, let's look at the positive stuff before we start to embark and dwell on the negative, right? Plenty of positive in this one. And the biggest positive is a series sweep in the wild card.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Once again, lots of offense. The Dodgers put up a ton of runs, 8 to be specific, 8-4 the final, a big 6th inning. Kike reaches on an infield single. Rojas grounds out to first, Kike on to second. Rortvedt safe at first on a throwing error. Then Ohtani singles to right. That scores Kike, Rortvedt on to third. Then Mookie, a double to left, scoring Rortvedt, Ohtani to third. Then they intentionally walk Freddie. And generally speaking, when you've got a hitter coming up that they walk to get to you, that very rarely works out to the benefit of the defensive team. Freddie gets intentionally walked. Teo comes up, doubles to center, sensing the slight. And that scores Ohtani and Mookie. That made it 7-2. But the other big thing here, the Dodgers fell behind 2-0. So to rally back and take a 3-2 lead in the 4th inning? Bottom of the 4th. Yeah, Muncy singles to right. Pajes strikes out. Kike doubles to center. It is just amazing. Kike Tober. It is just remarkable how effective he becomes when the calendar flips to October or the regular season comes to an end and it's now postseason baseball. Kike flips a switch in his brain. It is amazing. And I don't know how he does it, but he thrives in the spotlight of postseason baseball. Rojas then singled to right. as Tommy Edman did not play today. That scored Kike to make it 3-2. So battling back. And then, you've got Yamamoto out there doing his thing. It was a little bit shaky. Those 2 runs he gave up in the first, unearned. But all we focus on with regard to him was getting out of that jam without a scratch in the 6th inning, striking out Ellie De La Cruz to end the threat by the Reds. That was awesome. That was big boy baseball right there. Big time intensity. And Yamamoto goes 6 2/3 for the win, allows 2 runs, both unearned on 4 hits, walked 2 and struck out 9. The splitter was wicked. The curveball, I mean, he had a little bit of everything working tonight, just like Blake Snell did last night, but the splitter is his go-to, and tonight he relied on it. Blake Trinan, a third of an inning, 2 pitches. So maybe he did find that arm slot. Maybe he is back. We'll 2 good performances. We can't complain about what he's done. We can't complain about Emmett Sheehan. A third of an inning coming in the 8th. 2 earned runs, 2 hits, 2 walks, 27 pitches, an ERA of 54. Ugh, ouch. So really that was the sore spot. Vesia, 2/3 of an inning, 1 walk, but kind of shook it off and said it's good. And he was right. Ended up with 2 Ks, 14 pitches to get out of it. And then Sasaki comes in to slam the door in the 9th. Holy cow. Do I love seeing him out there doing his thing. He's also got that wicked splitter falling off the table, unhittable practically, through 11 pitches to retire the side. Again, 2 Ks, 8-4 the final. The Dodgers win it. And positively, in my opinion, didn't seem terribly excited. Kind of like, yeah, just doing business. I am curious to know if they did a champagne celebration in the clubhouse tonight. They didn't show any pictures of it on ESPN if they did. So I think it would be awesome if they didn't. I think it would be so cool if they're just like, yeah, whatever. This is business. We're not here to celebrate anything. Winning the wild card is not what we're after. But after the DS, if they are able to get past Philly, they will celebrate then. They could be celebrating right now. I don't know. If you guys are still watching and they're showing the celebration, let me know, because I am in here talking to you. But I think it would be so cool if they just didn't do that. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Baseball has too many celebrations, right? It's the only sport that celebrates as much as they do. It's kind of ridiculous. So if they just said, we're good, have a beer, something like that, high five, relax, turn on the music. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Victor Contreras believes, as many of us do, the Dodgers have found their closer in Roki Sasaki. Amen, man. I've said this before too, and I'll keep saying it. Closers like routine. Pitchers like routine. When they know when they're going to pitch, it's better for them because they can kind of get into the mindset and get ready for that opportunity. They can prepare. One of the things I don't know about Sasaki that I feel like most closers have and desperately need is one screw a little bit loose. They have to be a little bit crazy, a little bit touched. And Sasaki does not seem that way. He seems very level-headed. So, not all of the closers are that way, but most of the good ones are, right? Most of the good ones are a little bit, another one that I feel is pretty level-headed. Former Dodger closer, now Angel closer, Kenley Jansen. Didn't seem like there was anything wrong with that guy. He seemed very down to earth. Aroldis Chapman, former Yankee, now Red Sox closer, also very level-headed dude. But a lot of them are just a little bit left of center and a little bit crazy, and that's beneficial. That's a beautiful thing, right? They come in there and they have that ability to just kind of harness that craziness and put it into their arm. So Roki Sasaki doesn't seem like that type of guy, but he pitches like that type of guy. And that's what we love. That's what we want to see. A guy that comes in, give me the ball. I'm going to go in there and take care of business. Look, that's the thing I've loved about Vesia too. So I feel like Vesia is just, geared up wound a little bit tighter than the rest of us, and that's what you need as a reliever in a high leverage situation. So nice to see the Dodgers finish this one off, that it didn't get hairy again after an ugly 8th inning. 8-4 the final over the Reds. Shohei Ohtani 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Mookie Betts 4 hits. 4 hits for Mookie Betts.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
3 doubles for Mook. How about that? Awesome. When the top of the lineup is producing, the Dodgers, generally speaking, are going to be just fine for the majority of the game. Freddie Freeman 0 for 4, and Teo, the 2 RBI double, 1 for 5.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
We got a big one in primetime Thursday nighter. 3-1 49ers, 3-1 Rams.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I'm gonna wait to talk about the San Francisco 49ers injuries, and they are numerous. The injury report a little bit shorter for the Los Angeles Rams. So what is the big storyline right now for the Rams coming into week 5?
Yeah, I think there's a couple, Brian. I think that, on the offensive side, it's, can you get Matthew Stafford going quicker? Can you get him going without, the pressure of the last 2 minutes of the first half, or the pressure of a touchdown deficit midway through the fourth quarter? Because when there's been some pressure on him, he's been really, really good. When there has not, when it's been, relatively smooth sailing, he hasn't been particularly good. Now, I know that's the benefit of having a veteran quarterback, is when you got to have it, he seems to be able to find a way to get it done. But he has been pretty inconsistent. I don't think the numbers really reflect how up and down he's been. The numbers look pretty good, but his performance has been a little spotty. On the other side, it's the back end of that defense. It's the secondary. They really struggled against the Eagles in the second half a couple of weeks ago. They struggled, I thought, too, against Indianapolis last week. And if not for a kind of a boneheaded play by Mitchell dropping the ball going across the goal line there, the Rams probably lose that game because they couldn't cover in the back end. Now, they can mitigate some of that stuff by getting home, which they've been really good at doing. Byron Young leads the entire league in sacks with 5, and Jared Verse is heating up, which is not a big surprise. It was just a matter of time until he starts to do what he does. But I think those are the two big ones, one on each side of the ball, coming into the game on Thursday against the Niners.
Well, the good news for the Rams is they might not have anybody to take advantage of that, or the Rams secondary, because the 49ers have a ton of injuries, and Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings among them at wide receiver. We might have a familiar guy who has all of one catch so far on this season, and DeMarcus Robinson, a familiar player to Rams fans, might be out there in the number one starting wide receiver for the 49ers in this one on Thursday. And I actually expected him to be on the field a little bit more in week 4 after his 3-game suspension. But as of Wednesday, as we record this, Travis, not only do we not know if it's going to be Ricky Pearsall or Juwan Jennings able to go out there and play, we don't even know who's throwing the football. Right. I mean, I can't remember a time when it was like you're sitting here and no idea if it's going to be Brock Purdy or Mac Jones playing in this game tomorrow. I think it's looking like leaning in the direction of Mac Jones being the player. The 49ers had both Brock Purdy and Mac Jones speaking to the media yesterday, and he's usually the starting quarterback that speaks to the media. I think Kyle Shanahan probably doesn't know himself or prefers the Rams don't know, even if he does know. So that's part of it as well. Brock Purdy on the injury report, and look, it's just kind of walkthroughs for the most part anyway on a short week like this. So not a lot of practicing happening for the guys who are practicing. Brock Purdy didn't practice early in the week, and Mac Jones did practice. Jones was more hurt, according to Kyle Shanahan, last week with a sprained PCL injury. Now it is, after aggravating his toe injury, Brock Purdy more hurt than Mac Jones coming into week 5, which to me tells me it's most likely going to be Mac Jones throwing to Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson on Thursday night, but there still is a chance for some other guys to be ready and play. And still no George Kittle, who's on IR as well. So the leading receiver for the San Francisco 49ers is coming out of the backfield, and that is Christian McCaffrey, who's touched the ball more than any player in the NFL this year. Even though the 49ers aren't running the ball as well as they usually do, he's still been a weapon in the passing game, and on pace to set 49ers records for how often he's touched the football. So I would expect a lot of Christian McCaffrey, which any team does when they come to the 49ers anyway.
Yeah, no, well, not that the Rams are unique in this particular department, but they do not have anybody that matches up particularly well with Christian McCaffrey. Now, I guess the good news is neither does anybody else. That's why he's Christian McCaffrey. He's a tough cover no matter what, but that's something that they have really struggled with. Now, they've been really good against the run this year. That is something that they improved a great deal from a year ago. It's, you go back to last year, and the thing that they could not get figured out was how to deal with Saquon Barkley, right? Saquon Barkley killed them in the regular season. Saquon Barkley killed them in the postseason. And then a couple of weeks ago, they did a really good job on Saquon. Last week, they did a really good job on Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, you get another test coming up this week with McCaffrey, and then next week they go to Baltimore and have to deal with Derrick Henry. So they get 4 guys in a row that are monsters out of the backfield. But one of the least talked about acquisitions that they had during the offseason last year was Poona Ford. And he has changed a lot in the middle of that defensive line. Like, the Rams are really good at getting home and rushing the quarterback, guys like Young, Verse, Fisk, and whatnot. But Ford has been terrific dealing with that run. So I think if they can continue to do that, then, if McCaffrey is the weapon, if that's the leading receiver coming into this game, you try to make him work for everything he gets. But I am optimistic that they've been really good against the run this year, and Ford has been a huge part of that.
Yeah, the 49ers defensive front could use a Poona Ford. That was a phenomenal addition to that Rams front. You brought up Saquon Barkley too, and here's a great stat for you. And it illustrates where the 49ers are right now with the blocking up front, even before you start talking about whether or not Christian McCaffrey's lost a step with some of the injuries he's had going into that area of running backs' careers where they do start to fall off the map many times in their late 20s. But he's still a very good football player, clearly. But last week, 17 carries for 49 yards, which is 2.9 yards per carry. It's not very good, right? And on top of that, 48 of his 49 rushing yards came after contact. So by my math, that's all of 1 yard that was blocked for Christian McCaffrey before he was contacted by defenders.
Yeah.
And last year, one of the most insane stats for Saquon Barkley, and look, Saquon Barkley can do a lot on his own. Saquon Barkley last year for the Eagles had 1,000 yards before contact on the season.
Great.
So 1,000 of his rushing yards, he never had to even deal with a defender yet. And so that tells you what's going on up front for the San Francisco 49ers. Them not being able to run the ball isn't necessarily a Christian McCaffrey problem right now. And so Kyle Shanahan needs to go back to the drawing board. They need to figure this thing out on the offensive line, and they need to get that going, because when's the last time a Kyle Shanahan offense couldn't run the football? I can't think of one.
Yeah, no, that's been the Niners and the Rams, obviously, going back, doing the McVay era, going to the Shanahan era. It feels like it's kind of started to swing back a little bit towards the Rams. Like, the Niners were just beating them, over and over and over again, obviously with the notable exception of that NFC Championship game. But last year, it felt like it kind of started to swing back the other way. And if they can take advantage of that offensive line like you're talking about, and limit the ability of McCaffrey to kill them on the ground, which he's done. Like he's killed them over and over again. You mentioned Kittle too. That's another guy that the Rams had no answer for years and years and years. So, as far as the timing goes, you got to get a little lucky with the scheduling of when you play, who and who's available in those moments. And at least as the injury report goes, the Rams might have a little bit of an advantage coming into this one, just simply because they're a little bit healthier at those spots.
Yeah, and that's why the Rams are favored right now in this football game, and they haven't been favored a lot against the 49ers in recent history. And by the way, you said Ravens next week for the Rams?
Yeah, Ravens next week. Yeah,
nice scheduling. You get no Lamar likely next week either.
Yeah, look, they said you gotta be good, but you gotta be lucky too, Brian. Right? Then the schedule needs to work out for you. So fingers crossed. Yeah, hopefully Lamar gets nice and healthy the week after the Rams come to town.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast.
The stress of that game, the pressure my body went under. Oof, we need to talk about it.
Brian and I have been hosting the show together for 1.5 years. I've been hosting this show for 7 years, all of Aaron Boone's tenure. Brian is considerably younger than me. He hasn't experienced as many playoff appearances as I have. I was feeling it earlier, but I have calmed myself down since the game ended. You have to take some deep breaths, everyone.
Yeah. Your breathe in, breathe out technique is something that I need to learn to employ in my own health, because dear God, was that game tough to watch.
Yeah, no, it was. I feel like I aged 15 years. Watching that game.
Me too.
On today's show, if I age 15 years, I'm retirement age. If you're just like in your 40s. On today's show, previewing Game 3 of the wild card series. The Yankees forced to Game 3. We're very happy about it, and we're going to give you reasons why you should be happy about the Yankees heading into Game 3. We're also going to discuss the lineup we think the Boone should make, that he wasn't committal. He was non-committal when it came to the lineup in the postgame, so we're going to talk about that. But first, this was a big boy win for the Yankees. This was a game that they easily could have lost. Boone could have made 5 mistakes and could have lost it. He only made 1 mistake, and it didn't cost them as much as I thought it would. So, yes, big boy win. It helps their confidence immensely also going into Game 3, knowing that they got to certain players that they normally don't get to, and that the Red Sox have basically burned their bullpen as much as the Yankees have burned their bullpen.
Yeah, and I know what some people are thinking when it comes to the bullpen comment is, they didn't use Chapman. They had to get Chapman up 2 separate times in the bullpen, and he threw 2 full warm-ups, which is, to me, just as much as coming into the game. Maybe it's not the stress of coming into the game, but he still got up and threw over 40 pitches in a bullpen warm-up. So Chapman did pretty much get used in a sense. Where do I even begin?
Let's begin with Rodon.
Okay, that's a great start. Yeah, not excellent, not great.
No,
but he battled and he gave them the definition of a quality start. And Carlos Rodon had an ace-like season this year, and it kind of gets overshadowed because of Max Fried. But watch what he did tonight. This is the kind of start that a mid-range number 3 or number 4 gives up 4 or 5 runs and is out of this game. And Carlos Rodon, to his credit, sat, battled, 3 runs. It wasn't pretty, but he kept them in the game and gave them a chance. And that's all you can really ask out of your starters, especially in the postseason. And you know what? To his credit, he wanted to be in that game. He wanted the ball. He told Boone, "I'm staying in this game." I thought that was a little played up by the manager. I didn't think it was necessary to come out there if he knew he wasn't going to take him out, but whatever. And
the slow, dramatic walk to the mound too.
Yeah, calm down, Casey Stengel. But overall, it was, I thought, a really gritty performance out of Carlos Rodon. Loved what I saw. I will just say this, and I don't want to make this a Boone bashing episode. There will be a few more things we'll mention about the manager. He should not have been out there for the next inning.
No.
Like, he clearly didn't have it. And after the emotion of potentially coming out of the game, trying to stay in the game, getting the 3 outs, including the double play, that emotional high and then low to get out of that inning in relief. That's it. After that adrenaline rush, that's it for him. So sending him back out there, I didn't understand at all for the 7th inning. It worked out, but it barely worked out.
Yeah, it's just funny how Boone just can't get it right. He either takes a guy out too soon or he leaves a guy in too long. It always seems to be the problem with him during the games. Now, it didn't come back to bite him too much because when the bullpen came in, they were great. You can't complain about what Cruz did. You can't complain about Williams. You definitely can't complain about Bednar, although that last out was...
Yeah, that was the one. It was that one and the Cruz out with the fly ball with Grisham, because Grisham calmed down on his route to the ball towards the end. But I always try to judge it based on watching the fielder and what he's doing to see if the ball's going to be out or not. And when that ball was hit and the camera went on center field, Grisham was sprinting towards the wall. And rare is it that Trent Grisham is sprinting towards the ball. Now, he moves pretty well out there, but he's not sprinting towards the ball usually ever. He's usually pretty nonchalant. So when I saw him sprinting, I was like, oh, no.
You're right.
And he settled under it and caught that ball. The last out, too. I mean, talk about a heart attack. I mean, that was just everything in it.
Especially because 2 outs and you're just thinking, okay, Bednar looks good. This is good. Let's go. And then as soon as the ball was hit, my heart stopped.
Yeah. Brutal.
I must have turned like white as a sheet. Even whiter than I am right now if you're watching on YouTube. And that almost, you know what, not quite, but when Piazza hit the last out of the 2000 World Series, it didn't go as deep, but when he hit that ball, my heart jumped into my throat. Like it was woo. So it felt kind of like that.
It was it is so funny though. When you're a fan of one of these teams and you watch, it's not enjoyable.
No.
Like there's relief afterwards, but watching your team play in these games is not fun.
It's so stressful. I prefer to watch the other series, but
so do I.
Yankees pushed it to 3. And let's talk
before we get to the positives. I want to bring up one more thing.
Well, I was going to talk
early
about
on
Devin Williams.
Devin Williams is fine. Yeah. I wanted to bring up we'll stick on pitching. So let's go with Devin Williams first.
Yeah. Another big boy performance from him. Cruz also, Cruz was so fired up after that last out. And, the bunt, thank you for that, by the way, guys. Thank you for the first attempt that went foul. Thank you for the pop-up that Cruz was able to, thank you. It was kind of rare that the Red Sox make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that also helped the Yankees. For once, the Red Sox were the ones that made mistakes that actually helped the Yankees.
They had a terrible game. Fundamentally, they had an awful game.
Yeah, so thank you for that. But Williams looked great. I know people were worried, but right now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I trust Williams more than I trust Luke Weaver.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
The Seahawks and Buccaneers getting ready to clash in their 1976 threads.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We are gearing up for a pivotal matchup at Lumen Field. 2 3-1 teams, the NFC South leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the 3-1 Seahawks, who technically are in second place, but they are tied for first place in the crowded NFC West. A special thanks to all of our listeners, whether you're out in Seattle or you're listening in from Tampa Bay. Thanks for making Locked On Bucs and Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We're going to be deep diving into everything you need to know from this upcoming game. Injuries on both sides, particularly for Tampa Bay heading into this matchup. And speaking of matchups, a lot of Ohio State flavor in this game coming up between the Seahawks and Bucs. And we'll look at what each team has got to do to get that fourth victory in their first 5 games. All this coming your way courtesy of Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDINNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. James, it's interesting because if you remember the quote from Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. And yet, in the case of the Tampa Bay Bucs, it has been hard to get to 3-1. They have been trailing in every game in the fourth quarter, but they found a way to win almost all of those games. Did lose for the first time last week against Philadelphia. And I think it is a testament to what Baker Mayfield does, what the magic is he brings under center, because the injuries he has had, particularly on offense, around him. And unfortunately for Tampa Bay, in their white creamsicle threads this weekend, it looks like they're going to be missing at least one more key player on offense as the injuries just keep piling up.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs could as easily be 4-0 as 0-4 at this point in the year. But, that's what good teams do, right? They find a way to win football games. And last week you spot the Eagles 14 points and just kind of run out of time at the end because they certainly made it a lot more interesting than people expected. But yeah, the injuries just don't ever seem to stop. We already knew that the Bucs were going to be without Kalijah Kancey. He's out for the rest of the year. He got injured in week 2, but they're without Mike Evans. They're without starting right tackle Luke Gedeke. But here are the players who, as of right now, have their status up in the air as to whether or not they're going to be playing in Seattle. Jamel Dean, Benjamin Morrison, Greg Gaines, Hassan Reddick, Bucky Irving, and Christian Izien. So they went through a walkthrough practice. Todd Bowles said that he felt like they would have more guys sitting out than actually participating had they not done the walkthrough. But Bucky Irving was seen in a walking boot and crutches, but not ruled out yet. Bowles said they're going to wait until Friday to see if he gets out of the boot. It seems borderline precautionary, but we're not really sure what the actual injury is. If I had to guess, if you go back to see that play where Bucky fumbled, even though I still don't think it was a fumble, the way his ankle bent underneath the defender, it twisted pretty awkwardly. You could be looking at a high ankle sprain. But again, we have, as of right now, no word as to what that injury is. But Benjamin Morrison missed almost all of training camp with a hamstring injury. He tweaked that. Jamel Dean playing at an all-pro level through the first 4 weeks. He's dealing with a hip/groin injury. Greg Gaines, who replaced Kalijah Kancey, he's dealing with a pec injury. It's just never ending for this Bucs team.
Yeah, a ton of injuries. And Cody Mock also is another one that you didn't mention being out for the season as well. So the offensive line's got 2 key pieces that are not going to be available. And it's funny because the Seahawks were in a somewhat similar situation only a few weeks ago. It just felt like, who's going to play corner and safety for this team? They were calling guys off of the street. They were bringing players up from the practice squad, and yet they didn't seem to miss a beat when they were putting the DeAnthony Bells and Tyakatas of the world into the lineup. They continued to play at a high level. They continued to get the job done back there. And now, because of the mini buy-in, look, I'm being brutally honest here. I can't remember the last time that the Seahawks were the team coming into a game like this that had the 3 days extra rest. It was it's usually the other way around. They have that 10-day, that mini bye after that Thursday night win over the Cardinals. And Nick Emanwari, their standout rookie safety, who's been out since like the 4th play of the season opener with a high ankle sprain, it sounds like there's optimism that he could be ready. We don't know if he's playing this weekend or not, but Seattle got Julian Love and Devin Witherspoon back last week. Those guys are going to be good to go. And they've got a couple other players on the front line that were banged up. DeMarcus Lawrence, we'll see if he's ready to play in this game. He had a thigh injury exited with last Thursday. But generally speaking, this is a team that is much healthier than what they were a few weeks ago. So kind of the polar opposite from Tampa Bay. And they're riding a wave of momentum. And the game on Thursday night, everybody's going to look at the 14-point deficit that the Cardinals erased at the end of the game. And they're going to say, ooh, Seattle got lucky there, whatever. Divisional games are just crazy. And Seattle still dominated 85% of that game. The week before, just murdered the Saints, who, oh, by the way, have been extremely competitive in all 3 of their other games. And Seattle just ran them out of Lumen Field. It was 21-0 like 3 minutes into the game. And then the week before that, and Pittsburgh's 3-1. The only game that they have looked bad was when Seattle in the second half came back from a 7-point deficit and ended up winning by 14 and just dominated all 3 phases in the second half of that game. This is a team that is feeling really good about what they are doing. And honestly, Seattle should be 4-0. They should have beat San Francisco in week 1, if not for Rick Woolen not making a play in the end zone on what I called a mini Hail Mary from Brock Purdy that the tight end Jake Tongas flew in and ended up catching in front of Woolen. Seattle had a 4-0 start in front of them. They have done a lot of things to hurt themselves, and yet at the same time, they've been comfortably ahead in all 3 of their wins in the second half. So this is a team that I feel like is still trying to get to where they are playing at their potential. There's a lot of room for growth, and yet it does seem like they have been able to put their presence forward in all 3 phases for a good chunk of the season. They're just looking for more consistency in a number of aspects, but they're healthy coming into this game on a 3-game win streak, and they get to go back home, which has actually not been a good thing in the past. They had lost 7 of their previous 8 home games before they crushed the Saints. They're hoping that game gets their home mojo back, and Tampa Bay is hoping they can keep that rolling for the Seahawks, where they struggle at home. But this is going to be a really fun matchup. There's no question about it. Getting to see how Tampa Bay deals with the injuries the way they have done all season. And I'm assuming that, Mike Evans, there's no way he's playing in this game either.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think the optimistic look is that you get him back against the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football 2 weeks from now. So he's going to miss the Seahawks game. He's probably going to miss the game against the 49ers next week. So that would be 3 games that he misses with that hamstring injury. And then hopefully you get him back for the Lions game. And by then you pretty much hopefully shaken all the rust off of Chris Godwin. Ibuka still firing on all cylinders, and you get that trio before a couple weeks later when you get Jalen McMillan back, and then you have all 4 of those weapons, just in time for that playoff push. But yeah, you won't see Mike Evans in this one other than in street clothes, rocking the beautiful Bucko Bruce logo there on whatever apparel he decides to wear. This game's going to be so aesthetically pleasing in these 1976 throwbacks for both squads. I'm so glad they decided to do that.
Yeah, I am too. And look, I'm on I would say I'm in the minority. I like the Seahawks old threads, but I like their current ones better. So like the people that are saying we want these full time, I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. They're good for a couple times a year, in my opinion. But now, if I was a Bucs follower, I think the creamsicle. I've always loved the creamsicles. Like I would be totally fine with making those full time. But I think that is a situation where it's really cool to see both these teams in year 50 getting to play each other and wearing these original threads. I think that we could say that is one of the key matchups to watch here. We've got Bucko Bruce going against the Kingdom Royal Blues here.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
For me, it's been a while since I've watched Miami play. Miami coming off the bye week, so I am looking forward to my favorite rivalry in sports. I mean, I grew up on Miami versus Florida State. As a child of the 80s, I grew up for a long stretch of my childhood into early adulthood. Every single year, it seemed like this game came down to a field goal, and it came down to number 1 versus number 2, or number 1 versus number 3, and a national championship eliminator almost every single time these teams played. And I'm glad that both teams are good. I mean, regardless of what happened in Charlottesville last weekend, Florida State still very dangerous and has an opportunity to kind of erase that loss from memory if they can pull it off against Miami.
I would absolutely agree. I'm older than you, but like I remember like mid 80s when I was a little kid and just first watching them, those games, that's when it really started. And just the draft picks, Dion and, all these different guys, and Toretta came along and stuff like that. It was just great. Every year, one of them, somebody picked them to win it. Like they were preseason. One of them was number one preseason pretty much every year. So, yeah, this rivalry is a lot of fun. And it's why I really got into the recruiting side of things, because the way they recruited and changed the entire college football landscape. So with that, speaking of elite talent, I'm going to throw this to you. Besides the obvious, like Ruben Bain is incredible, etc., which key players from Miami do you think need to really step up to beat the Florida State Seminoles?
Well, I mean, I think about the importance on defense of gap integrity, trying to, contain Thomas Castellanos. And I think that the coordinator chess match between Miami's Corey Heatherman on defense and Gus Malzahn leading Florida State's offense is going to be huge. But for Miami's defensive tackles, I think this is really, really important for them to play disciplined. The guy who's graded out the best so far has been Ahmad Moten, who's been a starter all season long. Transfer David Blay has done a good job as well. And Justin Scott, former five-star recruit who's in his second year, who's the third defensive tackle, has stepped up and made some plays this year. So, of course, you mentioned Ruben Bain on the other edge. Akeem Mesidor is going to have a big opportunity. And both Bain and Mesidor this year not only have been really effective as pass rushers, but they've both graded really well against the run also, which I think is going to be important against the number one rushing offense in college football. So just the importance of communication and assignment football on defense is going to be big on that side of the ball. On offense, I think it's no secret, and Florida State may try to take this away from Miami and force Carson Beck to beat them downfield. But really, Miami, their bread and butter, has been setting the tone with the running game. Mark Fletcher and Marty Brown, Miami's top two running backs, have both played really well behind an offensive line that's one of the best in the country. So, Cristobal is going to try to establish the run. I think that's no secret. An X factor will be, and we'll probably get into some injury stuff in a little bit, but the possible return of Jordan Lyle, who actually began the season as Miami's starting tailback, but hasn't played since that Notre Dame game due to injury, that could add, another element. And he's more of a home run hitter, got more speed than the other two Miami running backs do. So that could be something else to watch out for. And I think in this one, when you think about the passing game, Malachi Toney, true freshman, playing his first road game. So that's going to be something to monitor how he does. But Toney has had an excellent start to the year. And then you've got the experienced super senior, 6-year senior CJ Daniels, who's been a reliable target for Carson Beck so far. Because, Brian, I would imagine, Florida State's probably going to play with a lot of heavy boxes, and Miami's going to need to complete passes to win this game. So watch out for some of these receivers.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And since you just brought up some of the receivers, Florida State safeties tackled like crap against Virginia. It's weird because they were so good in their first few games. Nobody really knows why, but I'd imagine they'd be a little more focused. Tackling Malachi from somebody who's watched him play several times is not a fun time. That is difficult. You got to size that up. You got to make sure you get the right angles and all that stuff. He's a key player in this game, and hats off to Malachi for coming in a year early, by the way, for those who don't know. He enrolled a year early at University of Miami.
Yeah.
He's been really, really good. It's very rare to see that. So good for him. I think Florida State, just like you said, they're going to play up and challenge them to throw over the top in 50-50 balls. Florida State's got good DBs, but Miami's got good receivers. I have no idea how that's going to go. It's the reason it's called 50-50, but there are very few quarterbacks that have more accuracy than Carson Beck. So FSU's DBs are going to go up against it. So that brings up my number one. Some way, somehow, they've got to get pressure with 4 a lot more than they have this year. And if they don't, Miami will win. End of story, period. Florida State's pass rush is beyond anemic with 4. Just completely terrible. I forget the number, but they're in the bottom 5 or 6 in the country, G6 included, with like pressuring with their base on amount of time for the opposing quarterback to get the ball off. That's not going to get it done against a solid team along the Canes. So no offense to Virginia. They've got a good run game. I'll take Miami with Maui Noah and all those guys. So Florida State has to get home with that. Second question for you, which player or group are you most concerned about for the Canes possibly being exposed, even if it's just in a big moment, or overall going into this game?
It's hard. Like, Miami's obviously played really well to start the year. So I have questions. Like, it's hard to say like, hey, this group has been bad. Like, you can't really say that. I don't think to this point, Miami's defensive secondary, which looks a lot better. I don't think they've really been tested that much for me to say, hey, that group is, completely turned around from what they were last year. So I would say, for Miami's corners, which are, big and physical when you have guys like Xavier Lucas and OJ Frederick, but Deuce Robinson, that's a test. 6'6", leading Florida State in receiving. I mean, he was everything in that Virginia game. Certainly wasn't the offense's fault or his fault, despite that, controversial non-catch near the end. He played a huge role in Florida State's offense, and that's someone Miami's going to have to be wary of. On the offensive side, how's Carson Beck going to bounce back? Florida was not his best game. The Florida defense, I think, did some good things to kind of take some downfield stuff away, but Beck's timing was also off in that game. So first 3 games of the year, Carson, looked like a genuine Heisman contender. Didn't look that way against the Gators. So I think how he bounces back is going to be important against the Seminoles. And an overall, concern or question that I have, Brian, couple of them. I already mentioned first road game of the year for Miami. So being able to handle that environment is something I think Carson Beck, who's played in, big road environments during his time in the SEC, is going to have to kind of set the tone for his teammates, and his leadership is going to be important. Miami has at no point this season been trailing in a football game. So if that happens this weekend, and I would say Florida State is a team that's very much built to play with a lead, especially for their defense. So, if Miami, we haven't seen them play from behind this year. I think Florida State's a lot better, defensively when they're playing with the lead. So that's a question that, may or may not be answered this Saturday. So that's something I'm looking at.
I brought that up on my show the last couple of days, and congrats to you for bringing that. I wasn't sure if Miami trailed yet or not. They've been in some tight situations, but I mean, even the game against Florida was tight until like the last 4 to 6 minutes. They just killed them. But I'm curious to see what Miami can do. At some point, it's going to happen. It may not be the FSU game. You get down. Carson's been down before in bad situations. They were down 28-0 last year at Alabama, and he let them back.
Right.
They didn't end up winning, but it wasn't his fault. Like, they took the lead after being down by 28. He is capable. And that Georgia receiving group dropped more passes than any team in the country literally. So Miami's receiver group's a little more dependable, especially CJ Daniels. He's got great hands. I'm curious to see if they're down, if they open it up. This is my question about Miami. Mario is very conservative. Will they allow Carson to just, we can win some of these one-on-ones, take some more shots? I think he can absolutely do it. I think he's an NFL quarterback, but does Mario really let him? I have no idea the answer to that, but if you got the lead, we'll never find out. So on the other side of that, I mean, if Florida State gets behind, you brought that up, their offense is predicated with the lead. They do play up-tempo. I think it would be a little easier for Florida State, but they would still rather run the ball. Both these teams will run first, play with the lead, and take play-action shot teams. Different styles of offense, but play-action is their bread and butter for both of them, and they do a very good job of it.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Diego Pavia versus Ty Simpson, College Game Day. What more could you want?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
So speaking of two guys that moved the game forward, Ty Simpson, Diego Pavia. So tell me, Ty Simpson versus Vandy, like, what do you see with Vandy's defense? How can Ty Simpson attack this defense? Where is Vanderbilt, in y'all's eyes, most vulnerable?
Well, I think Vanderbilt is probably most vulnerable where Alabama is strongest, and that is in the pass defense. And I think Alabama is clearly going to have the better athletes But Vanderbilt plays sort of that one heartbeat, right? I mean, Vanderbilt also just plays, they are a true reflection of their coach. They seem rather no nonsense. And, if they're going to do it all the same way. And if that happens to be wrong, so be it, but they're all going to be wrong together. And there's certainly something very noble about that. And it can be very successful if everybody's on the right page and you're going in the right direction. So I think Alabama's advantages are going to be in the passing game because, frankly, Alabama's running game has been rather pedestrian this year. Jam Miller came back, and he was huge in the win against Georgia. There's no doubt about that. However, he had 16 carries for 46 yards. I mean, he had a few catches for a few yards, and one of them was huge to seal the game. But it's not like Alabama's got a Najee Harris, a TJ Yeldon, a Trent Richardson, a Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, any of those guys back there right now. They just don't have that. They've got some running backs that are pretty doggone good, but their strength lies in the passing game. And that is certainly, even in the Florida State contest, and I was there and it was awful and I could say all these things about it, but even in the Florida State game, you could tell that loss wasn't on Ty Simpson. That loss was many other factors. So I think Ty Simpson's been rather consistent, and I think you could make the case for him being the best quarterback in the SEC right now if it's not Diego Pavia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this game features, I think, statistically based on quarterback rating, the two best quarterbacks in the conference. Now, what I really love about Ty Simpson is that he is so poised. He throws with great anticipation. He can fit the ball in tight windows, all of the things you need out of a distributing quarterback. Like, he is Ryan Grove's perfect quarterback. He is the right-handed Michael Penix, right? And that's exactly what they did with Michael Penix at Washington, is what they're doing with Ty Simpson now, getting the ball out quick, designing route concepts that really stretch the field vertically and horizontally. So they put a lot of pressure on the secondary, and you can't, and it makes it, with his timing and his rhythm, it makes it, Luke, where you can't really get to him because Georgia tried. Georgia had free runners. I think up front, as far as blitz package wise, they had a pretty decent game plan to try to stop Ty Simpson. But Ty Simpson gets the ball out quick. So, like, there's other ways that I feel like Vandy's defense is going to have to pressure this team, and they're going to have to, if they're going to stop this passing game or slow it down, because there's not really any stopping it, but if they're going to slow it down, they've got to get hands on receivers. They've got to disrupt the timing, not necessarily with Ty Simpson, but with the receivers out on the perimeter too.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, for the most part, Ty Simpson's been on the same page with his guys. And it's oddly enough, the one guy who has not shown the ability to make all the catches when the passes are right is Ryan Williams, who had a pretty good game against Vanderbilt last year. He made a dazzling touchdown grab and run. But I think he, like everybody else in that Vanderbilt game last year, probably would like to have that one over. Yeah. But Ty Simpson has been really, really efficient. No interceptions yet. Now, that is a monster positive, and everybody loves to talk about it. What you do worry about, though, is like a guy who's made 47 free throws in a row, and then he misses the one free throw that's number 48 that in the most crucial of moments. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden the 47 free throws don't matter anymore. It was that one that you missed that was the big problem. And that's what you worry about is like when he throws an interception, I just hope it's like in garbage time or it's like at the very beginning of the game and the opponent doesn't score from it, because you'd hate it to be his first interception be something like a crucial pick six.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big factor in last year's game, was a pick six from Jalen Milroe early in the game. It just kind of set the tone for the game. So no matter when you get a pick six, it's always very, very detrimental in a game that's tight like this. So switching gears to Diego Pavia, is there anything you want to know about Vanderbilt's offense and Diego Pavia? Like, he's a special dude, and I'll talk about Bama's defense here in a second. But
I mean, y'all got to love him, right? I mean, he's just got to be sort of – I don't know if Vanderbilt could ever have a Johnny Manziel, and I know he's going to be there on the sidelines, and I know that's who Diego Pavia idolized growing up. But I think Vanderbilt, as much as Vanderbilt could have a Johnny Manziel, Vanderbilt's never going to have the most party animal, crazy, wild and woolly gunslinger quarterback, I wouldn't think. I mean, I guess Jay Cutler was in there somewhere. But Diego Pavia is just such he's like a Nashville legend, right? I mean, he's going to be that, right? Regardless of what happens.
Yeah, he already is. And this result, I don't think has any bearing on that. But I mean, just think if he somehow comes out with a win Saturday, I mean, you might as well build a statue. I mean, he's a generational type of talent. And I look at him as kind of the humble version of Johnny Manziel. He does a lot of the same things that Manziel does, except for party. He, instead of sneaking into bars at 3:00 in the morning, he, according to the Netflix documentary, he's breaking into the weight room and he's throwing with his guys. I mean, he's doing the things that you need to do to be successful as a quarterback because he has a chip on his shoulder. He's 5'10". He's got all the measurables stacked up against him, but he makes up with it in everything else he does. He's a tough kid, great leader. Make sure he picks up everybody around him, and that's what he needs to do. And that's what's been huge with this turnaround with Vanderbilt, dating back to last year. I mean, that's been the biggest thing. So when you look at what the impact he has on this team, he's the heart and soul, and he is the heart. He's almost the heart and soul of Nashville. He's almost the heartbeat of the city. Like, you're seeing more Vanderbilt stuff around town because, as you know, if it's not orange, it's crimson in Nashville. That's kind of where the allegiances lie. That's kind of where the most fans of that's how most fanhood lies here in Nashville. So, yeah, he's been a huge part of what Vanderbilt's trying to do. And the scary part is like everything that he was deficient in last year, he's improved a great deal. Like every passing attribute he has, pocket presence, pocket awareness, accuracy, timing. The only thing he hasn't really improved on yet, and I think that's just more of his physical limitations, is his deep ball accuracy. All of his interceptions have been on deep shots where he's underthrown the receiver. So that's not great, but I think everything else is elevated to the point where Vanderbilt's scoring 49 points a game. They are racking up nearly 500 yards of offense, and they are killer in the red zone, killer on third down, great in the rush game. Not as great in the passing game, but they just don't really – the volume's just not there to really get things going, but they're good enough in the passing game. So, I mean, this is probably – I would say this is Vanderbilt's most loaded roster I think that they've ever had.
I think that's very fair. James Franklin days, I mean, they had some dudes, but it's hard to really remember who any of them were. You just knew that, those teams were winning 9 games a year, it felt like. But I do wonder, and again, this isn't to try and talk trash. I know Pavia came out very brashedly and said, is that a word? Brashedly? Or is it brazenly? I say brazenly.
Brazenly, well, brashedly
can't. No, brazenly works. Brashedly, I don't know.
Let's make it a word, Let's make it a word.
But I like to learn from myself when I'm on here. But for sure. He said something about how if we just do what we're supposed to do, I mean, it won't be close. Not verbatim, but something like that. And I was asked about that on a Montgomery radio station today, and I said, hey, look, any other time any other Vanderbilt quarterback had ever said that in the history of there being football, we all would have laughed right out of the stadium. But this isn't 2017, whoever that lineman was with the very effeminate voice saying, hey, Alabama, you're next. Nobody took that seriously. Everybody thought, oh, my God, what have you just stepped in? And this is different. I really believe, whether it happens or not, I believe Diego Pavia believes that. It's not lip service. I think he truly believes that. And so, in a way, I respect it. And it's up to Alabama to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. He wholeheartedly believes it. He believes that they can go 12-0 and win a national championship. He believes they can win the SEC. He believes all the goals out there, the small ones, the large ones, he believes in every single one of them. And that's the thing that I think galvanizes the team. Like, they know he believes it. He's not just out there talking trash to talk trash. He actually believes that, and those guys, and he believes that his guys, and it's because he's like, hey, it's because my offensive line is great. It's because we have a great defense. It's because I have great weapons to throw to. And he makes sure he shouts those guys out after he makes his bold statement. He goes on to give, he usually goes on to give credit to the guys. So it's something that I think really is a big difference mentally, emotionally for this team. And that's, you got to look at that and have a lot of respect for that. And most times when people talk trash, it's just that. It's just lip service. They don't really, it's whatever. But he's full-fledged believing it.